the people at CNN who will inevitably hire Chris. So they're just like kind of glazing him before they're basically glazing him for you know, our next co-host. See, he's big time.
I would rather lose by telling
now we're gonna
the
move
truth
on to Cristobal Christie,
in order to win, and I feel no differently today.
Who
because this is a fight for the soul of our party and the soul of our country.
Dropped off. He's suspending his campaign.
Why have we resisted the calls to drop out of this race? Because unlike some of the other candidates, we're fighting for something bigger than ourselves. We're fighting for something bigger than self-interest. We're fighting for something bigger than the next title. I've got plenty of titles. Enough titles to last me the rest of my life. U.S. Attorney, Governor, husband, father, son, brother.
Goomba.
I had enough titles to last me for the rest of my life. We're fighting for something bigger. It's something that conventional wisdom thinkers just can't possibly understand. And so they've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, because some polls, that I should drop out of the race, that I should get out for that reason. The smallness of the campaigns, who spend more time arguing and worrying about who should get out of the race than they have spent going after the front runner. They spend all their time saying, oh, Christie should get out, Scott should get out, Pence should get out, Hutchinson should get out, Burgum should get out. They and their donors have a different target every day to try to minimize the attention to their own campaign. How their own campaign is a campaign that doesn't play to win. It's a campaign that plays to not offend. Problems in our country, the divisions and influx at our border, the problems with our enormous debt, the failures of our education system, all of those things and much more will not be solved.
He's saying this because the audience is full of libs, and he's saying this so he can get a job at CNN, which is hosting this.
If we ever have a hope,
loser speech already.
Party,
all right, I got to
be a governing party of principles. We have to be willing to do the hard work and take some of the heat that comes with it. We have candidates in this race who have run away from forums where they were afraid they were going to be booed. I run into the forums where I know I'm going to be booed, because being booed for telling the truth is a badge of honor. I'm proud of everything we've said and done so far. And I'm proud of all the people who have supported us and are willing to do what needs to be done to restore the soul of our country. Because in the end, all those issues that we've talked about at all the town halls, they're all really important, but they're no more important than the most important issue. And that is the character of the candidate. You don't know what's going to come across the next president's desk. You think you can predict it, but you can't. No one asked George W. Bush or Al Gore what they would do if 4 airliners were hijacked and flown into symbols of American power and killing thousands of Americans. No one asked them that in New Hampshire in 2000. But I was glad we had a man of character sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office when that attack came, because I knew George Bush would do everything he needed to do to protect this country and its people and put them first, not himself first. Imagine just for a moment if 9/11 had happened with Donald Trump behind the desk. The first thing he would have done was run to the bunker to protect himself.
No! Imagine.
He would have put himself first before this country.
9/11, folks. Imagine it.
That he is unfit to be president of the United States is unfit themselves to be president of the United States. Campaigns are run to win. That's why we do them. I see the chairman here in New Hampshire. He knows we run campaigns to win. My goal has never been to be just a voice against the hate and the division and the selfishness of what our party has become under Donald Trump. It's also been to win the nomination and defeat Joe Biden and restore our party and our country to a new place of hope. And
if his target is libs and he's just shitting their mouth holding up GWB, excuse me, do you not know any liberals? They love George W. Bush now.
Path to accomplishing that goal that I would get out. And it's clear to me tonight that there isn't a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign tonight for President of the United States.
No.
I know, and I can see it from some of the faces here, that I'm disappointing some people by doing this. People who believe in our message and believe in what we've been doing. I also know, though, it's the right thing for me to do, because I want to promise you this. I am going to make sure that in no way do I enable Donald Trump to ever be president of the United States again. And that's more important than my own personal ambition. So
who are you going to support, sir?
We have to decide in the next 10 months, who do we want to be as a country?
Endorse Joe Brandon, coward.
We forget that people...
Dude, it'd be sick if he endorsed, it'd be sick if he endorsed Vivek. He'd be like, America needs Vivek Ramaswamy.
There are problems, and we have to fix them. We have to secure our border, and we have to do it in a way that's smart and sensible and will work. Because it's not right to have a porous southern border in this country. But I want you to remember something. Those people who are coming over that border, many of them are walking hundreds, if not thousands of miles to get there, because here is where they see hope. Here is where they see freedom. Here is where they see success. Here is where they see that flag, which means for them, thousands of miles away in other countries, all of those principles. We are still the indispensable nation to the rest of the world. We need to be the indispensable nation once again to each other. We need to believe in America as much as they believe in America. Right now, they believe in America in a way that this country, angry, divided, with selfish leadership who puts their own ambition first, isn't doing for our country anymore. We need to change that. And every election is an opportunity to change it.
Oh, shut up, God.
We have people in this race, all they will do is tell you how bad everything is, how angry we should be. And there's certainly sufficient reason for anger at the failures of the leaders we've selected. But they're doing it not for that reason. It's not a moment of honesty and transparency. Believe me, it's not. It's because they believe when we get angry, what we'll do is naturally relate to the angriest voice in the room. Donald Trump.
I'm going to talk about the hot mic moment in a second.
Every day.
I'm cutting this. I'm cutting this. Let's get to the fun story. Christie actually had a scooplet backstory behind the Christie hot mic moment, including a voicemail to the Daily Beast from the former New Hampshire GOP chairman and the candidate he was talking to. Christie on a hot mic got caught before this Yappington sesh. Okay, here's 55 seconds of it uninterrupted. Caught on a hot mic ahead of his expected announcement that he's dropping in the presidential race. He says Nikki Haley is going to get smoked, and a petrified Ron DeSantis called him.
Don't want to hear it, Wayne. They don't want to hear it. We know we're right, but they don't want to hear it. Right. And there's, you know, we couldn't have been any clearer. Right. We couldn't have been any more direct or worked any harder. So, you know.
Forget she spent $68 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, when you give land to China and places like that.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, she spent $68 million so far, just on TV. Spent $68 million so far, $59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, you know? And she's going to get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
she hasn't even been
And she's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
And he's
I mean, they're saying in a candid moment what we've been saying in perpetuity, is that they're just having a mid-off, okay? They're all smoked. They're all cumstered. They're all dumpstered. There's no way to take down the Trump train, baby. Now, when I say that, there's probably liberals out there who go, see? Hasan loves Donald Trump. It's like, no, man. No, okay? I mean, I love Trump as a phenomenon. I love Trump as a comedian, okay? I don't like Trump as a person in a position of power, obviously. So it's just like these guys have nothing going on the Republican Party side. That much is clear to me. It is especially clear to me considering that they thought Ron DeSantis would be the great savior for the institutional Republicans. And very quickly, Ron DeSantis tanked any kind of support that he could have cultivated. He tanked it by just being awful, too. Like, he tanked it almost entirely on his own. That makes it even funnier because he tanked it due to just being unfuckable, unrisable. Okay? So now they're looking at, oh God, Ron DeSantis is such a great analog for Elizabeth Warren. 40 points, trailing 40 points behind in his own goddamn state against Donaldo Trump, dude. It's just so awesome. It's nutty.
Due to Christie presenting himself as a moderate Republican, many people are assuming that Nikki Haley will get voters who are supporting Christie. Although Christie only polls around 3.6% in Republican national primary polls, in certain states like New Hampshire, where there are a lot of moderate Republicans, Christie voters can probably help Nikki Haley in building a momentum, which is very important in this Republican primary, even if she wants a slight chance of beating Donald Trump.
Point is, institutional Republicans are in a rock and a hard place situation where the primary general electorate dynamics are coming to cook them a little bit. That's Nick Merckx's GOAT, baby. I'll never forget that. That's my GOAT, dog. Ron DeSantis. My GOAT. So, yeah, and Elon Musk, too. I guess, like, what I'm trying to say is Ronald McDonald DeSantis, with his Mickey Mouse rings that he got due to Donald Trump and due to COVID, okay, was destined to fail when people found out how annoying he is. He is not a good retail politician at all. Okay? Now they're trying to back the other pony, Nikki Haley. Okay? And that's not going to work either. It's just not going to work. Here's Christie on Hot Mic, by the way. Here's the backstory, I guess, on the Hot Mic moment. What is this? Good for Christie? This speech rocks. Oh, my God, John. Come on, man. Come on, dog. This guy's a charlatan. Like, what are you doing? Okay, anyway. Oh, here, let's finish the last part of the Hot Mic.
He's still gonna carry out, right?
Yes, always. I talked to DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well,
Huh! The guy goes, he's probably getting after Iowa. Holy moly. Let's hear what Wolf has to say about this.
Very powerful, very dramatic statement, suspending his presidential campaign, but not necessarily endorsing any of the other Republican candidates. I want to bring back our political team for some analysis. David Chalian, he was so tough on Trump, probably the toughest I've heard him so far in this campaign. What's your reaction to what we just heard from Christie?
Well, obviously, Christie leaves this campaign in the
getting out after Iowa. No, getting after Iowa. Getting out after Iowa.
His assessment, I think, gets to the heart of this entire story, which is that this has been what he has been selling, and it has not been bought by the Republican primary electorate.
Ain't nobody is buying.
And even, not really in New Hampshire, as he was in third place there. Now, that doesn't change his values, and he said very much.
CNN lies. Why not watch Democracy Now! Or something? Because I'm the Democracy Now! Of the situation. I'm looking at liberal media and giving you analysis on liberal media.
Donald Trump unfit for the presidency, then you yourself are unfit for the presidency. Those are stark words to leave to his former opponents. And look at the timing of this. Christie is obviously not unaware that there's a debate tonight in Iowa on this stage right behind me between DeSantis and Haley, and has clearly chosen this moment to inject his rationale for his candidacy into this race at the time of his departure to sort of leave it sitting there for the remaining candidates running against Donald Trump to consider. But again, I think it is crucial that we look at where Republican primary voters have been throughout this race. And Chris Christie has been relentless in this argument that he has been pitching to voters, and they have not been buying it, Wolf.
Yeah, he was very, very firm. He said Trump is unfit to be president of the United States. And if any of the other Republican candidates refuse to say that, they are also unfit to be president of the United States. A very strong statement indeed. Jeff Zeleny, it was very...
I think Chris Christie making strong statements is like less impactful than someone like myself making strong statements, because I feel like I even have more broad popular support as a person who's not running for president and simply an online Z-list e-celebrity than Chris Christie does. It's like that person in the crowd making a statement has the same weight of Chris Christie. The only people that will try and make this into a real thing are going to be obviously people in this community because we love memeing on our big boy, but also the people at CNN who will inevitably hire Chris. So they're just like kind of glazing him before they're basically glazing him for our next co-host. See, he's big time. Anyway, Chris Christie is larger than life.
These words are etched in stone, and I can promise you the Biden campaign and Democrats will use them as an argument for independent voters against Donald Trump. But before any of that, I think probably the most surprising and perhaps the most stinging indictment was against his fellow challengers. And he's really said much of that, some of it in private about Nikki Haley and others, but it certainly puts to rest any suggestion that he is going to be rushing to endorse a Nikki Haley. Now, his voters, of course, he doesn't own his voters. So voters will make an individual judgment whether there is an endorsement or not. But I think a very striking speech, a very really pointed remarks on many, many fronts that gives us significant amount to analyze and discuss going forward, Wolf.
One of my favorite things is like whether Chris Christie can move the needle within the electorate in the primary race. And it's like, bro, he was polling at like 1%. Okay. What do you mean? Move what needle? Like, I don't know what the crosstabs look like on that. Like, who is a Chris Christie to Donald Trump voter? I'm sure there are some Americans that do that, but ultimately it's like 8 people. You know what I mean? I hear Chris Christie is dropping out out of the race today. I might even get him to like. I might even get to like him again. Anyway, he was just caught on a hot mic making a very truthful statement. She's gonna get smoked. You and I both know it. She's not up to this, which is kind of cool. I was expecting more from him. I'll tell you this. I was expecting more from Donald Trump, right? Like, you know, like a fat joke or something like, oh, he dropped out of the race, but, you know, he's racing to get some donuts, or, you know, you could hear him dropping out of the race all the way from D.C., right? Something like that. But, like, what I think is interesting about this statement in particular is not who it mentions, but who it doesn't mention. Okay? And, of course, careful eyes have already noticed this as well. It's not mentioning Ron DeSantis. It is, once again, only mentioning Nikki Haley. Chris Christie made comments both about Nikki Haley and also about Ron DeSantis, and yet Donald Trump is not talking about that at all and only lasering in on the Nikki Haley statement. I find that very interesting. Chatters, yeah. You know who else is not mentioning? Asa Hutchinson nor Doug Burgum, which I think is messed up because as a Burgomaniac, obviously, we love him, folks. We love Burgum. Don't know why he's not, he's doing our boy a disservice by undermining him like this and not thinking that he's a serious threat when he constitutes a genuine threat, perhaps the biggest threat. Okay. But yeah, I do think it's interesting that he's mentioning Nikki Haley and not mentioning Ron DeSantis, showing who he feels threatened by legitimately. Never was Chris Christie. Obviously, he likes getting those dunks on him. But it's pretty funny that liberal media is like hyping up Chris Christie because like this was his major audience, obviously. I've said this since day one. Chris Christie has been running on the Democratic primary ticket for some reason, okay? He's also doing birther theory against Haley now. Okay, that's cool. Gateway Pundit mention. Haven't seen that in a while. Didn't know that they still existed. In Nikki Haley's situation, reports indicate that her parents were not U.S. citizens at the time of her birth in 1972, based on the Constitution as interpreted by Paul Ingracia. This disqualifies Haley from the presidential or vice presidential candidacy under the 12th Amendment. Yeah, that's not a real legal scholar, okay? And that's not a real legal opinion. It doesn't matter if her parents weren't American citizens at a time of her birth. It's so stupid. I like that we're trying to be like, my legal scholar. And then you look at the legal work and it's just racism, like white supremacy. Guess what? Sucks to suck. My parents are not American citizens, but it doesn't matter because I am, because I was born here.
Trump is placed in a very comfortable position in GOP primary. As you can see in this graph, the support for DeSantis has been consistently decreasing. Vivek Ramaswamy got a small bump in October, but even his support is decreasing now. The only exception is Nikki Haley, whose support is increasing. She initially had a very small base of supporters. The Iowa state primary is dominated by evangelical Christians, whose favorite is Donald Trump. So Nikki Haley will probably try to get second position, as first position looks nearly impossible for her, and try to build up a momentum and win New Hampshire, which is dominated by moderates. If she somehow wins that and Donald Trump gets in legal trouble in any of his cases, then maybe she has some chances of beating Trump. Otherwise, at least according to polls, Trump is dominating Republican primary and he is going to be their nominee. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this, and thanks for watching.